Hello again to all of you wonderful people of this part of the information superhighway to the newest episode of Weirman Newsroom, which is episode 116, where this week, of course, we'll continue the usual fare of the series, but this week, more of a kind of lighter amount of content in terms of new releases, some trailers, and news stories, but the length may vary, so let's not waste time on this. Let's get to talking all things media that we have for another week.
We know all your secrets.
We're starting off this week in the releases in the formal focus of a film that has seen a follow-up after 2 decades, and this point has seen a bit of a cult classic following in that regards, of the leading ladies in the particular original movie have twisted in reality and shall find themselves respecting one another in the aspect. After 2 decades, these two are back again and about to experience the same situation all those years ago that they experienced, but now with double the trouble, as we have release of the sequel to the original Disney Channel film take on the body swap comedy with Freakier Friday. And the film will see the return of mother and daughter Tess and Anna, who discovered that the of letting may indeed strike twice, in a rare occasion, as the experience they had 2 decades ago seems to take hold again and see them swap bodies, but instead of just the 2 of them, it also now involves Anna's older daughters. And reception seems to be in the modest to well received aspect, that while praise has been given to returning leads of Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan, the film feels a little out of focus in the aspect of the 2 stories as being presented here, and not the most original, but still shows some signs of heart and focus in the narrative. If you want to reminisce in this project and check it out for yourself, then you catch this body swap comedy now in cinemas. And for our second film this week, it's taking a more of a spooky aspect, and there's plenty of unsettling scares and outcome to a project like this, in some cases could tap into your deepest fears. In this aspect, it taps into one of mine too. And that all sense of it happened in your hometown with no explanation, a sense of uncertainty as to everything going on, how far would you search for answers, and what unsettling creepy outcome could occur from it all. As Zach Krieger is back once again from his horror beginnings with Barbarian, that somehow connects this movie, with his second horror film in the new title of Weapons. Now this film will tell a strange mystery that occurred in a small community town where one night at exactly 2:17 a.m, all but one child from the same class suddenly wakes up, walks downstairs, walks out the front door, and disappears into the night with no explanation, and the community left questioning who or what is behind his disappearances, and why is it only with one teacher's classroom. Reception of this follow-up from the director has been highly acclaimed, with the film being praised for its performances, particularly for Julia Garner and Josh Brolin, its story, cinematography, and horror elements, and has been labeled as one of the best horrors of this year, a year of some very strong contenders. If you want to check it out for yourself, then you can catch this new film out now also in cinemas. But keeping to the horror of the first of the TV shows for this week is aspect with case of this aspect with maybe a little bit creepy, a bit kooky, a tiny bit mysterious, and a bit spooky, and sure it could be a little bit ooky, but I guess you get that with this certain family. But in the case of things, we're not focused on all the family, but rather with one particular member of the youngest female of this family. As a new semester has begun, things are getting a little bit more spooky, as we have the release of the first half to the second season to the Addams Family based project of Wednesday. Now, this new season will see Wednesday's journey become more darker and more complex as she will navigate family, friends, new mysteries, and all adversaries, all while propelling her headlong into another year at Nevermore Academy. She tries to stop the death of her roommate that she may be the one that caused it from a dark premonition. Now, reception on the first half of the season has been very strongly decently received, with praise that involves story, performances, particularly of Ortega's standout role, and building story, even if some feels a little bit messy or not fully complete yet, but that's what I get when this season is split into 2 parts. If you're all for checking this out, you can catch the first 4 episodes now on Netflix, with the second half dropping in about a month's time on September 3rd. And for our second show of this week, it's a turn to a small part of the States that's not been in focus for some time, and see returns of some characters that may see an evolving change, as Hank Hill and his family are returning after 15 years since their original series ended, as they receive the release of the new revival of the adult animated series of King of the Hill. Now, the new season will be set 15 years after the events of the original, and we'll see Hank and Peggy return to Arlene, Texas after working all that time in Saudi Arabia. And the season will show how the town and their friends have changed in their absence, particularly with their young son Bobby, who's now 21, as he navigates adulthood as a chef in Dallas, Texas. Reception of this new revival, like the original series, has seen some great acclaim, with praise to the series for its stories, character, humor, and still retain the charm and the original series had all that time ago, with some new focus on the modern topics in that aspect. And if you want to check it out for yourself, you can catch the full season now on Hulu and Disney+. And for the one video game for this week, we are heading back to the past about a century to the cultural south part of Italy, to a time when power, corruption, trust, and family were the focus of keeping your head above water and from getting yourself killed. And it will see return to a world of organized crime, as we have the release of the all-new entry in the popular Mafia series with the new title of Mafia: The Old Country. The game will take place before the events of the original game in the series, and set in the early 20th century Sicily during the regime of Mussolini, with the title being The Rise and Formation of the Sicilian Mafia, where you play as Enzo Favara to see and experience his journey from his childhood of indentured labor in the sulfur mines to becoming a valued member of the Torresi crime family. Reception's new title has garnered some favorable reception with praise to the visuals, its characters, and the story, though some of the mechanics and gameplay functions have been mixed as feeling a little lacking and could use some more updated functions, but still seems like a strong contender for one of this year's best games. If you want to play it for yourself, then you can play it now on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. And the last new release that we have for this week to me appeals in the realm of some new music that may not be the most well known or appeal to everyone, but it does to me, and just wanted to give some odd taste of music to people that probably don't know it, as with a new album selection music from the minds of musician Jim Roach and the vocals of one Dan Avidan, as the second band of Shadow Academy is back with an all-new album known as Prisms. This of course will see an all-new selection of new tracks and songs from this band that will consist of the title track itself, as well as other ones like Across the Great Unknown, Icarus, One Way Mirror, Mask of Many Colors, and many more in a selection of music that has a variety of genre and tones. No unclear on how reception of music is shown, but it seems like a good amount of the tracks seem like a proper solid sound and appeal, and we'll be listening to them for a fair amount of time over the next few days. If you want to have a listen yourself, it is available to purchase as a physical CD or LP on their website, or where records or albums are sold, and also available to listen where you like to listen to music. With all that regards now, that's all the new releases that we do have for this week.
Cool, bro. You catch the game last night?
So we start on the trailers for this week with a focus to a product that has a bit more of a horror-based concept. The start is a piece of internet mystery that is unclear if this was recently made or was a real supernatural mystery all those years ago. And what better focus to have it all done than with another YouTube creator taking a crack at it following the success of the two brothers that made one of this year's best horrors of Top Bringer Back. As YouTube creator Chris Struckman and horror author Mike Flanagan have teamed up for a new horror mystery, as we have the release of the first trailer for their new film of Shelby Oaks. The film follows the mystery of a disappearance of a young woman named Riley Brennan, who back in the early 2000s hosted a YouTube channel with her friends known as the Paranormal Paranoids that saw them filming in various haunted locations, before things took a grisly and mysterious turn when they investigated the abandoned town of Shelby Oaks, Ohio, that saw Riley's three friends found murdered and a tape left behind that shows Riley either being taken or killed by an unidentifiable man. This soon leads to Mia, Riley's younger sister, believing with hope that she's still alive and a search for her for about 12 years, when she comes across a second tape that contains contents that convince Mia that something sinister is involved with Riley's vanishing. So in most cases, I'm well aware of the original concept of videos that started off from a possible discussion from a Reddit thread and YouTube series that led to a lot of conspiracies and discussions as to what was going on and what is the outcome of all this, and from the looks of this trailer is giving a vibe that we may be in for a real treat, given a big screen conclusion that makes complete sense overall, and from what I've heard from early reception, it really seems like it's in a strong acclaim and could be another strong entry of horror for this year. I know for sure that I will be giving this a look into, and you can as well, with the mystery unfolding into cinemas from the 3rd of October. Now for another horror in the form of a bit of a psychological thriller that covers in the era that in this case what I would not be much of a big interest in, but in all cases it is mainly from one exception, in the person of a big name behind the camera in a producer role, as you have a new sports-based horror thriller that will question how far you will go and how much of your sanity will you lose, all to prove that you have what it takes for the big leagues, as we received an all-new trailer for the new film of him. The film follows a promising young and upcoming football player played by Tyreek Withers, who was invited to train at the isolated compound of a dynasty team's aging quarterback one, played by Marlon Wayans, where he will meet the legendary retired player who will take the protege on a blood-chilling journey into the inner sanctum of fame, power, and pursuit of excellence at any cost. Now it's a case that, like I say about the anime film of Goat from Sony last week, is that I'm not one that really gives much of an appeal in the realm of projects based on sports, but there is a case that there is a bit of an exception, like how Goat was the stylish animation, and of this one, it's the name of Marlon Wayans in the roles, but also with Jordan Peele involved with the filmography as a creator post the comedy shows that has been pretty strong from his trilogy of films, as next one next year, and the likes of the film Monkey Man last year, and it seems like it's in good hands. And I'm unsure what we can expect from this deep meaning, and hopefully we know a strong horror contender for this year, but I'm sure we'll be all set to play when the film releases in the cinemas, also from the 3rd of October here, but 2 weeks earlier in the States on September 18th. Now for the only TV trailer that we have for this week has gotten the focus to make a return to a certain district to the realm of the concept of the everyday working life mockumentary series, where we had seen the ideas of a place that worked and sold paper from a company in Scranton, Pennsylvania. But now we are hopping a state or two over to give a focus to some of that paper being used for certain means of telling stories, as you have a new trailer hot off the presses for the new series from the crew that created The Office, with the new series of The Paper. The series will focus on the same crew that made Dunder Mifflin a famous name in the world, and take on their next task in the way of in Toledo, Ohio, where the crew will focus their efforts on a company known as the Toledo Truth Teller, an historic but declining Midwestern newspaper that has seen itself trying to make a name and resurrecting themselves in the hiring of volunteer reporters and try to prove that they still have a chance in the changing world and how news is delivered. delivered. So in all case, I can see where the likes of the appeal of the original UK and US based versions of The Office has seen a success even still to this day. I'm sensed that they're trying with the likes of this new series that still have a bit of the familiarity to the look and aesthetic, as well as the case of one Oscar Martinez returning back again for the new series. While it's not fully gripped me yet, I'm sure there will still some appeal to the project overall. I'm sure it may work out. I mean, it probably can't be as bad as the Australian take from what I've heard, but I'm sure we'll see when this new first issue is delivered onto Peacock in the States and Sky now in the UK and Ireland from the 4th and 5th of September. And the last of the trailers for this week is in the focus of an adaptation take from a more recent project from an acclaimed mind that will show that even at their age, they still have a strong mind and a clear conscience to crack the case, even if they are restricted to lights out medication at certain times. As we received the official trailer for the new adaptation of the popular book series of the Thursday Murder Club. Now, based on the first novel in the franchise, the film will follow a group of amateur septuagenarian sleuths who love to tackle and solve cold cases in their comfy retirement home that consists of a former spy, a former nurse, a former trade union official, and a former psychiatrist. But when an actual murder takes place in their local area, they will soon step up to the challenge and take on the case before the killer strikes again. It has been seen that we have seen a massive influx in the appeal of the whodunits in recent memory. I've seen many different ways and approaches to it, and I can sense with the books as well, as they provide the appeal of some old folks that love the sense of murder mysteries getting the chance to prove their worth, even with their past that may all come together to solve something that from the footage looks like it'll be a bit of a good fun, and hopefully will be a well-respected adaptation of the first novel. I mean, the author of Richard Osman, I think, is involved with this as well. And, you know, it leads to a series of successful adaptations of the books, and I'm all for checking this out, and it's not too long away as well, as the mystery will get underway on Netflix in about 3 weeks' time on August 28th. Now, with all that regards, that's all the trailers that we do have for this week.
I was bitten by. What if you like to know? Yeah, man.
So it's another week of news, and similar to last week, the first of the stories will be taking on another direct from the world of Nintendo, but in this instance, it's not another partner showcase or even a first-party focus one, which is likely the case they're going to hold back on that for another month with that one and a Mario-centric one to celebrate that 4th anniversary. But instead, we have a focus on the much shorter event of the Indie World Showcase, where we have a bit of a selection of discuss and announcements given to one that was short, about 15 minutes, but I will fly through the ones that we get and focus on what was announced for this week. So let's delve into those announcements. So the event started off with a new look at the next title from developers of the acclaimed Shovel Knight series with Mina the Hollower, a new title that has you as a small mouse-like adventurer who's on the quest to save a cursed island from monsters and hazards and restore the land to peace, prosperity, and if it's like that flagship title, I'm sure it'll be well worth playing to release this title coming out on Halloween on the 31st of October. Then our next title in focus was a look at new in Metroidvania known as Well Dweller, where you play as a tiny bird named Glimmer that only armed with a matchstick will go on a journey in the dark and creepy underworld to burn and stop the wicked queen and save your family. And I love the art style as well as some of the odd little nightmares that you will face off against, and it'll be something well worth a try and playing when it releases sometime in 2026. The new title from the world artist behind Celeste was revealed with Neverway. That's a mix of Stardew Valley and a horror RPG that will have you leave your dead-end job and become a farmer and immortal for a dead god, and must keep your sanity in check and stop the nightmare world of Neverway leaking into the real world. Seems like something fun, hopefully will balance all the concepts well and look already visually appealing, and we'll see how it all comes together for it to release sometime in 2026. Then from developers of the acclaimed Far series as well as the Firewatch game sees the release of a new title known as Hurdling, where you are a guide or shepherd bringing some strange and odd creatures up a mountain trail, defending against enemies and learn the secrets of the mountain's peak. I feel it may be one that has a nice chill vibe with a deep story, but I'm not sure we'll learn more about it. It's released in about 2 weeks time on the 21st of August. Then we have a new simple pixel based game of Is Your Seek Taken. There's a bit of a sorting game of placing strange shaped people in the right locations, and I'm sure it will be happy to appeal and comfort. If you want something with a little challenge, it's now available to play on the consoles and PC of the same date the event took place. Then with the release last year has got an all new announcement for some DLC for Little Kitty Big City with the Picture Perfect update that will include new places and lands to explore, as well as some mini customization options for the cat, and will be something well worth getting into when the update releases sometime later this year. Then a title that has already been some success on Steam and a title that I was all for playing with friends is the multiplayer game of Content Warning, where you'll take on a group of content creators you find and record some spooky and messed up stuff in order to upload the footage to SpookTube in order to gain the view counts for that day. If only it was that easy for views. But this title will be well worth playing on the go with friends, and with a version of Steam the Switch dropping sometime next year. Then we have a title announcement of Ball X Pit that gives me a game of tower defense and RPG mixed with the game of Breakout or Brick Breaker type game. It does look like it has some appeal and interest with all the appealing visuals and action involved, and will be interesting to try out when the game drops on the 15th of October of this year. Then we got the announcement of the Switch port of the Ultimate Sheep Raccoon game, where you and friends create an obstacle course of deadly traps and race through them and pull off sick tricks and flips, and I'm sure will something fun to make and cause conflicts with friendships and be well worth playing when the title drops sometime later this winter. Then we have a new focus game of Glaciered, where you take on the role of an evolved species of bird known as a Taui, and you will fight against the dangerous evolved creatures of the oceans frozen under a sheet of ice in an Everwinter Earth 65 million years in the future. That looks like it functions really well and seems like it could have some appeal. I'm sure we'll see how it all comes about when the playing time when the trial drops sometime later this holiday season. Then the last of titles were all in the focus of a quick fire compilation of games coming out, with the first being shown of the Winter Burrow game that will see you play as a mouse that must survive in the harsh winter by gathering resources and defend against creatures, and will be something cozy to play by its release sometime this winter. Then we got a new look at the title of Undusted Letters of the Past that will see you clean some old antiques and items and learn the stories that hold in them, and we'll be learn more about them with the release of this title sometime this October. Then the next same day release was the title known as Tiny Bookshop, where you open a little bookstore by the sea and you can curate and decorate the store and make many new friends in this process. I'm sure it will be a nice little tale and a little cozy game to play, something peaceful and cozy. Will release now on the console. Then they unveiled the title of Caves of Quid that is seen as an everything machine game that has a vibe of a title from the early days of PC games that has you explore a unique world and work your way through many lands of old civilization. I'm sure it'll be well worth a try when it releases sometime later this winter. Then we got a brief look at the title of Strange Antiquities as you become a custodian for a shop dealing with occult oddities and use them to help some of the townspeople of Undermere with their proper problems, and also remember to pet your cat to keep your sanity. And I'm sure it will be an interesting title, but try it when they release sometime on the 17th of September. Then we have a look at the title of Opus Prism Peak that will have you play as a weary photographer who finds himself trapped outside of his own world, where armed with only his old camera and accompanied by a mysterious girl, you explore the world, learn the story and secrets of this planet, place, and find a way to get back home. It does look like it could be a really nice and fun adventure to play, with this title releasing sometime later this fall. Then the second last title event was the unveiling of Go-Go Town, where you are the mayor of this ever-expanding and bustling metropolis. It is up to you to construct, tame the city and how you see fit, and I'm sure it'll be well worth making a dream city of your own desire, with the title releasing in the spring of next year. And then to wrap up the title of the event was the confirmed release of the same day of the acclaimed and award-winning title of UFO 50 that will have you play as a massive 50 game compilation of classic pixel-based games in many different genres. I feel a sense why this title had such an appeal and will be well worth trying out in due time on PC and on the go. However, that brought the end of an Indie World showcase, and I'm sure I'm not one to judge on the likes of indie titles, but there was a lot of interesting ones to look forward to. Sure, there was one everyone was hoping to see get a date announced, which was of course with Hollow Knight Silk Song, but I'm sure we'll see something this month from the likes of its reveal event at Gamescom with a playable demo, but overall a nice little showcase of the growing world of indie games. But what do you think of this event? Are you excited to try any of these out, and what titles were you hoping to see from this event, and when do you expect to see the next Nintendo Direct itself in particular? Let me think of all this down below in the comments. Our second story for this week is one that's a bit of a hodgepodge to say, as we have a bit of some focus on some casting confirmations, new projects announced, rumored names for big franchises, and an unexpected sequel getting a bit of change up, and some other bits in there as well. Well, we can delve into those now and see what comes from all of this. Now, the first of these discussions were the focus of a film adaptation that I have for a bit of time forgotten was on the way, as I had not talked on it since way back in 2023. But this week we've gotten the full confirmation of the complete cast of names that will be appearing in a Netflix animated adaptation of Roald Dahl's classic story, The Twits. So initially the first of the cast that I'd known about being cast in the project was with 4 names, with the Sticky and Cocaine Bear star Margot Martindale as Mrs. Twit, British comedian and actor Johnny Vegas as Mr. Twit, Black Swan and 4 star Natalie Portman as Mary Muggle Wump, and Game of Thrones star Emilia Clarke as a character named Pippa. But now we have got a massive list of names involved, including Superman star Alan Tudyk as Sweet Toad, Brooklyn Nine-Nine's Jason Mantzoukas as Wayne John, Veeps Timothy Simons as Marty Wumple, Rebecca Wachowski as Dee Dumdy Dungle, Dee Bradley Baker as Muggle Wump Efforts and Florb Norbles, Nicole Byer as Beverly Onion, Marjorie Mamastakin as Bisha Bati, Mark Prokush as Horvis Dunkel, and many more names to add to a massive lineup of names for this project. Now, I feel a lot of these new additions, as I remember the story being a little more different, but maybe given a little more of the book could work, like they did with Fantastic Mr. Fox and other adaptations. Now I'll give this a look into in due time. Now, hopefully we will get a trailer for this new take coming soon enough, as the film is not too far away from release, and is in fact coming out later this year with the release on the 17th of October on Netflix. So I'm sure we'll probably be seeing a look in due time. Then from one animated project to another, we are heading over to the realm of Sony, and we are talking on a series that has been ever so hyped for many in the industry, and that is with the case of the Spider-Verse films and projects. Now, since its inception in 2018 with Into the Spider-Verse, the project has really popped off in terms of focus to the world of building on new ideas and concepts, with one of them that we know of is on the way next year with the project based on Spider-Man Noir, as well as ones being in the works, ones based on the Spider-Women and a possible one on Venom, and of course the trilogy conclusion with Beyond in 2 years' time. But I feel another one in the form of universe cannot hurt, and this universe cannot hurt really to be announced, and this one is going in the more rebellious side of things, because it was announced on Wednesday this week that we are getting another spin-off film based on the characters from the trilogy of films, as with one of my favorite new additions from across the Spider-Verse, and that's of course with Spider-Punk. Now, it's also confirmed that while Danny Kaluuya is confirmed back as the voice of the character, it's not the only aspect of that he's involved with, as he's also confirmed to be one of the co-writers on this project itself, and as some of the original creators of the series, the films of Lord and Miller and Pascal, are reportedly set to produce this project as well. Now, I'm all for a new focused Spider-Man project, as reportedly set to produce, especially with Punk in the role, as I feel it could really bring something interesting with a more rebellious form of the character, and from taking on some more unique forms of the Rogues Gallery with his unique scrapbook stop-motion art style. And I'm sure we'll get an idea of this project and concept in due time, if this will be set before or after the trilogy of films and when we expect to see this film's release. But once I do hear anything about this new version, I will of course update in a later episode. Now, in the case of franchise continuations, and if you've been giving a sense of premonitions and avoiding possible grisly demises or enjoyed them for some sick reason, yeah, I'm looking at you sick freak. Well, then you're in luck, as after the successful reception of the recent entry of the series, it is confirmed that a 7th film in the Final Destination series has been confirmed to be in the works, and one of the writers from the most recent Bloodlines film will be developing the project as it is. Now, I'm sure it could be a case that some life has been rejuvenated back into this series, but there's a sense of me feeling that if it's like some other series like the Scream or Halloween revivals, it will see a slew of follow-ups that will probably have the appeal as the first in their attempts at the project, but it won't be as appealing as the original. In that regards, like if they release them frequently, they'll start to get kind of tedious and boring, and a lot of people will turn away from them. But in case I see the approach this film works well, it could be a follow-up in the formula of this last movie and just work in some unique ways. As for me, I can give or take the concept, but I'm sure it will appeal to a few other fans of the series, and all power to them. But I guess we'll see how this follow-up will come out and when it does eventually release, but we'll see by then. Now for a bit of a brief update from one of the week's new release directors, as we have a bit of the news in relation to the upcoming adaptation of Resident Evil from the weapons director of Zack Krieger. Now, there was a lot of discussion since this announcement as to what we can expect from this project entailed, and if they're following a certain game story and certain characters, but it seems it's going in a bit of a different direction, as according to Zack, it seems to be a new story in this universe, but will not be focusing on any of the game's iconic characters, essentially taking the approach of the long-running film series that we saw with Mila Jovovich, and focus on new characters instead. Now, I feel in this regards that I can see this version of the project work well, but also see a bit of some hoping to see a new take on the likes of Chris, Leon, Claire, Jill, Wesker, or anyone else in this iconic game series, but I get it will help distinguish it from the series as its own thing, and also not to ruin these characters that may have had that situation done to them beforehand in other film adaptations. Now, I'm intrigued to see what this will do with this film in this beloved franchise, and I'm sure is a top choice creative of making something that will leave a good sense of fear in the process, but I'm sure we'll get an idea of this project and all those juicy details by release this project by September of next year. Now, for another franchise discussion that we have for this week, we have another new name that has been floating about for the big film role in the process, and that's coming to us in the focus discussion of the next entry of the 007 series. Now, a lot of discussion has been around as who will be seeing the role of Bond for this next entry, and we've had a few names being mentioned over the last little while, including the likes of Tom Holland, Harris Dickinson, Jacob Elordi, and one fan vote for Henry Cavill as being reported names. But it seems there's another name that has been thrown into the running as well, and this seems to be the case with Dune and Wonka star of Timothée Chalamet. Now, my own opinion about this choice is the same I have for most of the other names that were considered for this role by Amazon now, and that is the case that I think of all these are not the best choice. Sure, Dickinson and Lordy I think are alright in choices as they're not the most big names of the group mentioned, but it's still a case I would much rather see a new unknown name being given the role of Bond. I felt that to make much more sense to give something that may have had a present to really skyrocket to acclaim, something like what happened with Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan, or even Daniel Craig. Now, I do hope they will see an actor that gets a bit of a big break to fill the role of the iconic spy, because I don't want already big names getting another big role and will dampen my anticipation for another Bond film. But I guess we'll see how this all comes about on who will get the role, and if anything does come about it, I'll of course update in a later episode. And the last bit of this oddity of a news story section is the focus of a film that you probably didn't expect to see getting a follow-up, but it's a case we have gotten some news in relation to a film sequel to The Passion of the Christ. Now, if you know the story of the religious text, then you know Jesus was crucified and died on the cross before he was put in the cave, and then 3 days later he was rose from the dead. In the case of this follow-up, it'll be in that focus, and that will be seeing Mel Gibson returning as director, and the actor that played the religious figure of Jesus with Sound of Freedom and Possible Conspiracy nut Chip Caviezel coming back and being de-aged for this role. Now, this is not the whole story for this situation, as it was also confirmed that this film will not be a one and done thing, but rather the film is being split into 2 parts, with the first half releasing on what is essentially Good Friday of March 26, 2027, and the second half releasing a little over a month later on May 3rd, with the reason that release date being the time after Jesus rose from the dead. He then ascended back into heaven on that certain day after a certain bit of time. Now it's a case of wondering if this will work out well in the likes of a follow-up to a well-known story from the Holy Gospel, or if the original film that was a winner of many awards and was for about 15 years the highest grossing R-rated film of all time before Joker and Deadpool took that spot from them, should just be a one and done thing. But I guess we will see how it all comes about in due time, but they'll release the film in about 2 years time. What do you make of all these stories? Are you excited for a new adaptation on the Twits? Are you up for a Spider-Punk film? Will you watch a new Final Destination movie? Do you see a new focus character of the Resident Evil film as a good or bad thing? Who do you want to see play 007 in the new film? And who will you be watching the 2 film sequels to The Passion of the Christ? Let me think down below in the comments. So the last of the stories that we have for this week is one that I feel I'll be giving a brief rundown and updates to something, as we have some updates to a bit of legal drama news, and it's something we haven't talked on in over a year now, and that's to do with the actress of Gina Carano. Now, back in February last year, I brought up the discussion that Carano had been looking to take Disney to court over supposed unfair dismissal from her role as Cara Dune in the Star Wars universe, and particularly with the Mandalorian series. In this instance, got the aid of someone that would not be the most trustworthy to help find it, and is constantly, I think, gets off on his legal woes. And that person is fucking Elon Musk. Now, since the story, nothing new had been made about the whole ordeal, but that all changed just this week. It was announced that the lawsuit has been settled, and it looks like it may be a case that she could be returning for working with Disney. In some case, this could be a bit of a concern for the studio. Now, my own thoughts is, I will be a little concerned as to the cases since her firing. I had a bit of a glance at her socials since then. It seems there's still a bit of normal posts, and then some posts of weird ones and all that aspect of like conspiracy peddling, but it's a case not all the time. And some of that are a bit of a concern, as well as the case that may be a supporter of the man that seems to be destroying the cause of democracy in many different ways, but seen as saving it in his own mindset. I really don't know how this will appeal in people in many ways. Now, the issue I see with this can just shoehorn her back into Mandalorian is it seems to be wrapped up with the story seems to be coming to an end with the film out next May. But the other question is if they're forced to do this by the government or how they will add her into the stuff, as people are a bit mixed on the whole ordeal. I wonder if they will need to control what she says on her socials, as it seems that was clear the catalyst for what she got her fired in the first place. Now, in this instance, I'm not going to really go too deep into trying to figure this out and really how I feel about all this, because I don't want to really delve into political stuff or just get too messy and stuff like that. But I feel I don't know how this all will come about, but I guess we'll see in the future. But if anything does come up, I will provide it in a later episode. Just anything in particularly major focus. But what do you make of this whole ordeal itself? Do you see this as a good thing of having her back with Disney or Lucasfilm, or should they keep fighting the defense? And do you see this resolve partnership lasting long, or a repeat of what happened before? Let me think down below of all this, and for all that regards, that's all the news stories that we do have for this week.
Traumatized.
And with all that now, that ends episode 116 of Weird My Newsroom, and I hope you enjoyed my ramblings for probably about 30 minutes in this regards, but could be less. Anyways, I'm going to fly through this conclusion aspect and give some thoughts on what's coming up in the updates and stuff. So first off, reviews. I'm going to get back to doing the reviews and stuff. I was planning initially some point the last day or two to record the snack size box office ones. I have a few. I'm going to throw 1 or 2 more in there in aspect. There's another review I do have to throw in there as well, but we'll see how it goes. The last review is going to come, as well as some more long form stuff. Another one I'm going to add to the list of reviews in this list is F1. I finally saw it. I know I'm late to the party, but it was actually enjoyable. I didn't have the time to see it back then, but glad I got to see it in cinemas before it was like kind of disappeared from my local cinema. But in that regards, those reviews will be coming along as well, and if you have any reviews you want to see me do, let me know in the comments below. Then in case of some gameplay stuff, I do have DK Bonanza Part 2 ready to go, and I will upload probably before this episode comes out, but we'll see. Either before or after. Be one of the first videos, next videos in that regards. As well as I record more Bonanza, I'm going to record some Cyberpunk, some Star Wars, some Mario Mario Wonder, and some other games as well as Case of Ventilate will start at some point in the next few days, but we'll see in that regards when I have the time and energy to do so from work. Then in the case of long form stuff, I will get to the rewatchathon, I'll get to the AI Auditress video I promised someone, and in the case of some other bits and pieces, as well as case, I do have a Lego time-lapse video. I don't know how long it will be. Probably cut it down. I probably maybe about under 30 minutes, but we'll see. I'd focus in the case the first one being on the Luxo lamp. I just decided with that one, which you can see the full complete one here in that regards, but I will probably do the Fantastic Four one as well as Optimus Prime and any other ones in the future. I'm going to see what ones I'm in the mood for doing, but see in that regards. But if you want to see more of them, let me know what ones you want to see me build, any other long form stuff or anything like that, or you want to see me talk about, let me know down below. But with all that, I'll leave there for now. So if you want to see more from me more frequently, then simply like and subscribe. I'm uploading new stuff every single week, and I'm hoping to reach 500 subs soon enough. I'm stuck on 480 for a bit of time, but I appreciate every single person that's stuck around and watch my videos when they can, as well as the case I'm hoping to get to 1,000 subs by the end of this year, but you know, baby steps, baby steps. Let me know your thoughts on everything that was discussed this week down below. I know there was a lot, I know I rambled a lot a bit. I just want to get through a lot of this, and I have to get out of here soon enough. But talk about all the new releases, your thoughts on the trailers, your thoughts on the news stories as well, and give me your thoughts on everything down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and we can have a discussion about that aspect down there. But for now, I'm going to leave there for the moment. So as always, you all stay being wonderful people, have a great day every day, do many great things, and keeping you because no one else can do what you do, as well as protect your mental health because it's very important. I've been your host, Sam, of course, and I shall see you all in the next episode. So take care, and I'll see you later.